Chosen one, listen closely. Heaven saw what you did. Your obedience did not vanish into silence. It did not disappear into the background of your life. The moment you said yes, quietly, privately, without applause, the realms of heaven responded. Your obedience echoed, and the echo reached the throne. You may not understand the magnitude of it yet, but you will, because right now, heaven is moving on your behalf in ways that will soon become undeniable. Something shifted the moment you obeyed. The atmosphere around your spirit grew sharper. The weight you carried began to loosen. The confusion that once clouded you began to thin. This is not imagination. This is not emotional drift. This is spiritual reality responding to your boldness. When a chosen one obeys, heaven reacts. Your yes carried the power to activate angels, reroute destiny paths, and silence assignments meant to delay you. You thought you were simply doing the right thing, but in the invisible realm, you triggered a divine chain reaction. You need to understand this. Heaven celebrates obedience, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the hidden, quiet kind, the obedience that costs you something internally, the obedience that no one claps for, the obedience that feels unseen by the world but is magnified in heaven. That is the obedience that shakes the spirit realm. That is the obedience that angels move for. And that is the obedience you demonstrated. Chosen one, do not underestimate your yes. There were traps set for you, carefully arranged, beautifully disguised, perfectly timed. There were distractions meant to drain your spiritual energy. There were voices designed to pull you off course. There were opportunities crafted to look holy, but carrying danger beneath the surface. But the moment you obeyed, angelic forces were dispatched. The moment you submitted, heaven shifted position around you. The moment you surrendered, your atmosphere began to clear. And that is why you are feeling this subtle but undeniable shift. Something is opening for you. Something is aligning. Something is preparing to reveal itself. You may not fully grasp it yet, but your spirit senses it. You feel the wind changing direction. You feel the stirring in the unseen. You feel the energy around your life tightening with purpose. This is the confirmation. Heaven is clearing your path. And heaven seals this moment with ancient words spoken long before you were born, yet written for moments exactly like this. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. This is not just a verse for you, it is a decree over this season of your life. Your obedience has positioned you to receive. Your obedience has positioned you to find. Your obedience has positioned you before doors that are already unlocking from the inside. Heaven is telling you, because you obeyed. Now the doors will open. Because you obeyed. Now the path will clear. Because you obeyed. Now the timing will align. Because you obeyed. Now the angels will move ahead of you. The things that were once difficult will begin to soften. The resistance that felt heavy will begin to break. The fog that clouded your direction will begin to lift. This is what happens when a chosen one steps into alignment. Heaven reorganizes everything around them. But hear me, this is only the beginning. Your obedience is not just an action, it's a signal, a spiritual beacon. It tells heaven, I am ready, and heaven responds with movement. You are stepping into a season where you will see the supernatural hand of God clearing obstacles you didn't even know existed. Conversations will shift. Connections will align. Divine protection will intensify. Your discernment will sharpen. Your pace will increase. Chosen one. This message found you because heaven sent it to you. Nothing about this moment is random. Heaven interrupts your timeline only when something major is unfolding behind the scenes. And if your spirit feels a pull, a confirmation, a vibration of truth, it is because this word is marked for you. If this message resonates with the depths of your spirit, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss another word heaven is sending to guide your path. And now, as a prophetic act, sealing your obedience, comment 77 below. You begin to notice it slowly at first, something subtle, almost unspoken, moving through the atmosphere around you. It is not dramatic, not loud, not overwhelming. It is quiet, deliberate, intentional. A shift you can feel before you can name. A presence brushing against the edges of your awareness, as if heaven itself is breathing near you. And though no one else around you seems to sense it, your spirit knows the angels have begun to move. There is a certain way the air feels when heaven intervenes. A certain weight, a certain stillness, a certain clarity pressing itself against your world. You feel it in the moments between your thoughts. You sense it in the pauses of your day, the way something suddenly aligns, the way confusion begins dissolving, the way your heart feels less crowded than it did before. It is not coincidence. It is not imagination. It is the atmosphere being rearranged by unseen hands. For a long time, you moved through places that felt thick with resistance. Even simpler decisions required emotional energy. Ordinary days felt heavier than they should have. At times you wondered if you were under attack or simply exhausted. But the truth is deeper than either of those. The atmosphere around you was congested with things not meant for you, old attachments, lingering spiritual shadows, fragments of battles you had already won but had not yet fully cleared from your environment. You were walking through noise that was not yours. But because heaven saw your obedience, the angels have begun shifting that noise out of the way. You start to notice how conversations around you feel different, lighter, clearer, less draining. You notice how certain people who once occupied too much space in your thoughts seem to fade into the background. You notice how decisions that once felt heavy now feel obvious, natural, even effortless. It is because the atmosphere is no longer resisting you. Something is being lifted. Something is being removed. Something is being restored. This is what happens when angels move, environments obey. There are battles you will never have to fight because they are being fought for you. There are words you will never have to speak because heaven is speaking on your behalf. There are places you will never have to revisit because the angels have already swept them clean. You are stepping into a season where the air around you carries less weight because heaven is working behind the scenes. And you may not see them, but you feel their presence like a shift in the wind, like a door quietly opening somewhere behind you, like the sensation of being guided even in the smallest steps. It isn't dramatic. Angels rarely announce themselves. They simply move. And when they move, the atmosphere responds. You start to sense clarity where there was once confusion. You notice alignment where there was once scattering. You find peace in moments that used to trigger anxiety. This is the evidence of intervention, not lightning, not thunder, but order, quiet order, divine order, a sacred rearranging of the very air around your life. And in the midst of this holy shift, heaven whispers through ancient words that reveal what is happening around you. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the thoughts I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you expected end. This is the truth saturating the atmosphere around you now. Not the chaos you once felt, not the heaviness you once carried, not the uncertainty you once wrestled with. The angels are aligning your path with the plans heaven has always held for you, plans wrapped in protection, filled with direction, anchored in hope. You may feel like little is happening on the surface, but the unseen realm is busy with movement. Angels do not simply appear, they operate, they rearrange, they clear, they remove, they prepare. And the shift you sense is evidence they have begun their work. There are places where the ground beneath you once felt unstable, and now, without warning, it feels firm. There are decisions you once hesitated over that now feel illuminated with clarity. There are emotional weights that seem to fall away without struggle. These are the fingerprints of angels smoothing the path before you. And though you are still walking through familiar surroundings, something within them has changed. The tension that used to fill a room before you entered is no longer there. The emotional fog that used to blur your steps has thinned. Even silence feels different, no longer oppressive, but peaceful. This is what it feels like when heaven clears space for a chosen one. You are not imagining this shift. You are not overthinking it. You are not reading too deeply into the moment. The atmosphere truly is changing, and it is changing because heaven has begun to intervene on your behalf. There comes a moment when the world around you feels strangely thin, as if something beyond your ordinary sight is leaning close. You move through your day as usual, yet there is a quiet tear in the fabric of the atmosphere, subtle, gentle, but unmistakably divine. You sense things before they happen. You feel answers forming before the question is fully spoken. You walk into a room and something inside you whispers, what is shifting in the unseen? This is not coincidence. This is not imagination. This is what happens when the veil begins to thin before a chosen one. You start noticing patterns, small confirmations, sacred echoes, glimmers of something holy brushing against your awareness. The timing of things becomes too perfect to call random. The nudges in your spirit grow too precise to dismiss. Even silence carries meaning, almost as if heaven is speaking between the spaces of your thoughts. At first, it might feel strange, like standing between two realms at once. You are still present in the physical world, still handling responsibilities, still doing ordinary things, and yet, behind everything, there is a soft pressure, a gentle pull, a divine awareness rising inside you. Your soul begins reading the unseen with more clarity than the visible. It is because the veil is thinning. The distance between heaven and your spirit is shrinking. What once felt far away guidance, confirmation, clarity now begins to breathe near your ear. You sense the presence of angels, even if you cannot see them. You feel guided even when the path ahead is quiet. You are starting to perceive the movements of heaven before they manifest on earth. This thinning is a gift, but it is also a sign. It means heaven is preparing to reveal something It means your obedience in the last season opened a window into the next. It means revelation is approaching, and your spirit must be attuned to receive it. You may notice moments when time feels slower, almost suspended. You may feel sudden waves of peace for no apparent reason. You may sense danger before it arrives and avoid it without understanding why. You may feel a prompting to pause, to move, to speak, or to stay silent with unusual precision. These are not random instincts. They are signals from a realm. Only a few are sensitive enough to hear. The thinning veil often brings heightened discernment. Things once hidden in shadows become obvious. Motives people tried to disguise become transparent. Paths that looked identical suddenly show their true spiritual direction. You are not becoming suspicious or paranoid. You are becoming spiritually awake. To confirm this awakening, heaven speaks through a timeless word, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6 declares, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." This is what the thinning veil is doing, straightening what was once tangled, revealing what was once blurred, illuminating what was once uncertain. Heaven is guiding your steps, not through thunder, not through fire, but through quiet clarity rising within your spirit. And with each passing day, you become more aware that something is unfolding around you. Something is preparing to break. Something long delayed is drawing near. You may not fully see it yet, but you feel the tremor of change in your inner world. And that feeling is not a warning, it is an announcement. You are being prepared for revelation, for insight, for divine direction. What others ignore, you notice. What others shrug off, you feel deeply. What others consider coincidence, you recognize as confirmation. This is the evidence that you are walking closer to the spiritual realm than you ever have before. Not drifting, not disconnecting, but aligning. Your intuition is becoming sharper because your spirit is listening more clearly. The veil thins so the chosen one can see, hear, sense, and know what heaven is preparing to release. And as this clarity grows, your responsibility is simple. Stay aware. Pay attention to the little things. Notice the shifts in your spirit. Observe the peace that highlights the right path and the heaviness that reveals the wrong one. Heaven is guiding you gently, intentionally, consistently, and every nudge is part of the revelation that is on its way. At the end of this section, I want you to anchor yourself in this moment. If your spirit resonates with this thinning, if you feel that clarity rising within you, then comment, "I receive," below. And here is why. This simple phrase is not for me, it is for heaven. It is your declaration of alignment, your agreement with the revelation unfolding, your spiritual signature that you are listening, ready, and attuned. There is a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable on the surface, when a single act of obedience becomes the key that unlocks what was once sealed. You may not realize when it happens. You may not feel anything dramatic. There may be no thunder, no lightning, no supernatural sign written across the sky. And yet, in the invisible realm, something ancient shifts. Something long closed opens. Something that belonged to you but remained inaccessible suddenly comes within reach. Your obedience did that. You walked away from something that was draining you. You said yes to something that stretched you. You held your tongue when silence required strength. You prayed when giving up would have been easier. You chose alignment over comfort. These moments may have looked small, but heaven measured them differently. Heaven saw the posture of your heart, not the size of the action. And because of that heart posture, a hidden path, one you could not see before, has begun to reveal itself. You might look back across the last few seasons of your life and notice a pattern, doors that would not budge, opportunities that slipped away, directions that once seemed promising but led nowhere. You may have wondered if something was wrong with you, if you lacked clarity, if you missed God's timing. But now you can see it more clearly. Those paths were locked because they weren't meant for the version of you who still carried old attachments, old fears, old battles. Only obedience could transform you into the version of yourself who is ready for the next chapter. And now, because you obeyed, a path you never noticed before is beginning to emerge. It doesn't appear all at once. It doesn't reveal itself in dramatic revelation. Instead, it unfolds slowly, step by step, layer by layer, like a trail uncovered by gentle sunlight at dawn. This is how heaven works when it opens hidden roads, gradually, purposefully, intentionally. You start to notice new instructions forming in your heart. Ideas come more easily. Clarity begins to settle into places where confusion once lived. The things that used to drain you now fall away naturally, and the things that give you life begin to rise with new intensity. This is a sign that the hidden path is unlocking. There are journeys you were never meant to take until you carried the spiritual maturity you have now. There are assignments you could not handle until your heart learned to trust God in the unseen. There are opportunities that would have overwhelmed you had they come too soon. So, heaven, in its mercy, hid those paths until the exact moment your obedience prepared you for them. Now, those paths are opening, not because you forced them, not because you chased them, but because you aligned yourself with heaven. Sometimes, hidden paths remain hidden simply because we are not standing at the right angle to see them. But obedience shifts your angle. It repositions your perspective. It places you in the exact spot where the invisible becomes visible, and suddenly, what once seemed impossible becomes undeniably clear. Heaven confirms this moment through ancient wisdom that speaks directly into your unfolding journey. According to what is revealed in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8, "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." This is the truth surrounding your path now. You are not walking into the unknown. You are walking where God has already gone ahead of you. Every step you take is on ground that has been prepared. Every decision you make is guided by a presence that will not abandon you. This is not a journey of uncertainty, it is a journey of alignment. The hidden path ahead of you is not only opening, it is being cleared. Obstacles that once intimidated you are losing their power. Doubts that once whispered in your ear are fading into silence. Past disappointments no longer shape your expectations for the future. The version of you who once feared the unknown has grown into a version of you who is ready to walk boldly into it. And the best part, you do not have to understand everything. You do not have to figure out every detail. You do not have to rush ahead. Your role is simple. Keep walking. Keep listening. Keep aligning. Keep trusting the voice that led you this far. The path that once remained hidden is now unfolding before you, one obedient step at a time. There comes a season when the light of heaven grows so bright around you that anything hiding in the shadows can no longer remain concealed. It doesn't matter how quietly it moved before, how subtly it whispered, or how cleverly it disguised itself. When heaven's light increases, every hidden resistance must reveal its shape, and that is where you stand now. Imagine walking through a forest at dawn. Before the sun rises, every branch looks the same. Shadows blend together. The path is unclear. But when the first beam of sunlight cuts through the trees, suddenly the shapes, sharpened roots you might have tripped over, become visible. The path becomes defined, and dangers that hid in darkness lose their ability to surprise you. This is what is happening in your spirit. Heaven's light is rising, and because of that, what was once hidden must now come into view. You begin to notice small tensions you previously ignored. Conversations that once felt harmless now reveal a heaviness behind them. People you once trusted begin to show their deeper motives. Patterns you once tolerated begin to feel spiritually suffocating. Even thoughts that once passed through your mind unnoticed now stand out like alarms. It is not because things have gotten worse. It is because you can finally see. Heaven exposes nothing to hurt you, only to protect you. For months, perhaps even years, you walked with weight you couldn't name, pressure you assumed was just life, battles you accepted as your own, even though they didn't belong to you. But now, the light of God is shining into those unspoken corners, and resistance that once operated silently is being forced into the open. You may find yourself wondering why certain relationships suddenly feel different, why certain doors abruptly close, why certain environments no longer feel comfortable. But this isn't rejection, it's revelation. Heaven is separating what cannot travel with you into the next season. The light is identifying what was never aligned with your calling in the first place. Heaven speaks into this moment through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? This is the declaration being planted over your life right now. Light does not simply reveal, it protects, it guides. It empowers you to walk forward without the fear that once held you back. And as this light increases, you begin to see resistance not as an enemy overwhelming you, but as shadows disappearing at dawn. You recognize the patterns trying to distract you. You notice the emotional drains that used to slip past your awareness. You see the subtle spiritual fog that once clouded your judgment. But most importantly, you see your own strength, rising strength, that was always there, but hidden beneath layers of noise you never asked for. It's like standing on a shoreline during low tide. When the water recedes, it reveals shells, stones, and hidden structures that were there all along, but buried beneath the waves. Heaven is lowering the waters around you, so you can finally see what's been affecting your spirit, not to overwhelm you, but to free you. And as this revelation unfolds, understand this: growth always reveals friction. Elevation always exposes resistance. Diamonds glow brighter against darkness. And chosen ones, especially ones rising in obedience, tend to attract both heaven's attention and opposition's discomfort. When your light intensifies, anything clinging to your path without permission begins to shake. This is why you may feel a tension in places that once felt familiar. This is why your spirit grows restless around things that once felt normal. You are not breaking down. You are waking up. You are seeing clearly. You are recognizing the difference between what feeds you and what drains you. Your spirit is outgrowing anything that doesn't match its divine assignment. But through all of this unveiling, you are guided, protected, and surrounded. Heaven does not expose without also covering. Angels walk with you as you step through these revelations. And this clarity, though uncomfortable at times, is one of the greatest gifts heaven could give you because it prepares you for the blessings ahead. It clears the path. It removes the unnecessary. It sharpens your inner vision. It strengthens your spiritual spine. If this message is speaking to you, if the imagery, the revelation, the clarity feels real in your spirit, I invite you, gently and sincerely, to like this message, share it with someone who may need clarity, and subscribe so you can continue receiving words crafted for your journey. And if your heart feels led, you may also support or donate to help keep these messages flowing with excellence and without interruption. Not as an obligation, not as pressure, simply as a seed of gratitude and alignment. A way of saying, this nourished me, and I want to help nourish others. Your journey is sacred. Your clarity is rising, and heaven is not done revealing what comes next. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when something shifts deep beneath the surface, quietly, powerfully, undeniably. It is the moment when heaven marks you in a way that cannot be erased, diluted, or overlooked. And though you may not see it with your physical eyes, the spiritual realm recognizes it instantly. You carry a signature now, a heavenly imprint that announces who you belong to and what you are called to carry. You might not fully understand the magnitude of this marking yet. It does not come with fireworks or loud declarations. Instead, it feels like an awakening within you, a settling, a strengthening, a new awareness rising in your spirit. It feels like walking into a room and sensing that something invisible about you now speaks before you do. It feels like spiritual authority settling onto your shoulders, not as a burden, but as a mantle. This is what happens when heaven marks a life. You begin to notice how certain environments respond differently to you. Spaces that once felt clouded begin to clear the moment you enter them. Conversations shift tone when you speak, even if your words are simple. People who once overlooked you now sense something they cannot explain, an energy, a presence, a weight. It is not pride. It is not ego. It is the authority of someone who is known in heaven. And this authority is not loud. It does not shout. It does not demand. It does not posture. It simply is. It moves with you like a quiet crown. It stands with you like a silent guardian. It radiates from you like a steady flame. The enemy recognizes it too often before you do. That is why certain attacks suddenly stop working. That is why old temptations lose their power. That is why confusion that once clung to you now seems to break apart before it reaches your mind. You are marked, and darkness knows it. The mark you carry is not the result of luck, talent, or chance. It is the result of obedience, surrender, and spiritual endurance. It is the result of choosing God's voice over the noise around you. It is the result of battles fought in silence, tears shed privately, and decisions made with trembling faith. Heaven saw those moments. Heaven honored those choices. Heaven placed a mark on you that announces your identity to every realm. And with this marking, something else awakens: discernment. You begin to see through people and situations more clearly, not because you are suspicious, But because your spirit recognizes alignment and danger before your mind does, you feel the truth behind words. You sense the motives beneath actions. You recognize divine assignments wrapped in ordinary moments. This clarity isn't random, it's part of your marking. Heaven confirms this reality through a timeless declaration that still carries power today. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 13, having believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. This is the seal resting over your life now, a spiritual certainty, a divine signature, a heavenly emblem declaring that you are set apart, protected, and appointed for something greater than your past could ever suggest. And this seal does more than identify you. It protects you. It guides you. It distinguishes you. It surrounds you. Some people may not understand why they feel drawn to you. Others may not understand why they feel intimidated around you. But both reactions come from the same truth. You carry something from God, and your presence activates things in others. Sometimes it awakens peace. Sometimes it awakens conviction. Sometimes it awakens discomfort. But it always awakens something, because carriers of divine authority cannot walk unnoticed. And you, chosen one, are a carrier now. The path ahead will feel different because of this marking. Opportunities will be attracted to you that were previously locked. Conversations will find you that you didn't seek. People will look to you for clarity, direction, peace, presence, not because you are trying to lead, but because the mark on your spirit leads through you. You will feel less tolerance for anything that dishonors your calling. You will feel less desire for things that once entertained you. You will feel an increasing pull toward alignment, truth, and authenticity. Your spirit is maturing, strengthening, sharpening. This is what it feels like when heaven elevates someone internally before elevating them externally. And as this authority deepens, your footsteps become more intentional. Your thoughts become clearer. Your inner world becomes more rooted. You are not drifting, you are being established. Heaven is anchoring you so deeply that no storm can uproot you. No lie can deceive you. No fear can manipulate you. This marking is your shield. This marking is your confirmation. This marking is your invitation into the next dimension of your calling. And if something inside you feels this truth settling into your spirit, if you feel the resonance, the pull, the quiet recognition that this is your moment, then I invite you to anchor this reality by commenting the number 444 below, not as a ritual, not as superstition, but as a personal declaration that you recognize the marking on your life and you are stepping into it with awareness and agreement. There are moments in your life when a single decision carries the weight of generations. You may not realize it at the time. You may simply feel a nudge, a pull, an inner stirring that tells you, do this differently. But in the unseen, that yes becomes a blade that cuts through cycles your family carried for decades, perhaps centuries. Your obedience becomes the turning point in a story that began long before you were born. And this is the season where your yes is breaking ancient patterns. Some of the burdens you felt growing up, confusion, emotional heaviness, fear, instability, were not yours. They lingered in the atmosphere of your home, passed from one generation to the next like invisible heirlooms. No one said it out loud, but you could feel it. The unspoken pain, the unresolved stories. the cycles that repeated themselves through different faces and different eras. But there is something different about you. Where others surrendered to the pattern, you resisted it. Where others accepted the cycle as normal, you noticed something was off. Where others repeated the same behaviors, you felt an internal push, saying, "This stops here." Your spirit has always been aware that you were not meant to repeat what you came from, you were meant to break it. And when you finally obeyed God's whisper, whether it was leaving a toxic environment, choosing healing over avoidance, ending a harmful habit, walking away from a generational mindset, or embracing spiritual alignment, you activated something powerful. You didn't just shift your own life, you shifted the entire lineage. Your yes was the earthquake. Your obedience was the fracture in the ancient foundation. Your courage was the demolition of what once seemed unbreakable. And now, in the unseen, the old structures are collapsing. There are patterns in your bloodline that existed for so long, they began to feel like part of your identity. Emotional wounds inherited through silence. Fears passed down through stories. Scarcity mindsets disguised as practicality. Relational patterns repeated unconsciously because no one had ever shown a different way. Painful habits normalized because they were familiar. But heaven looked at you and said, "This one will end it." End 4. So God allowed you to feel what others numbed. He allowed you to wrestle with what others avoided. He allowed you to confront what others buried. He allowed you to break what others accepted, not because you were weak, but because you were chosen. Chosen to break cycles, chosen to rewrite stories, chosen to shift the atmosphere of your lineage, chosen to create a new spiritual inheritance. Sometimes you wonder why your battles felt heavier than those around you. It's because you were fighting more than your own struggles. You were fighting what generations before you never defeated. The spiritual weight on your shoulders wasn't unfair, it was purposeful. You were carrying the tools to break chains others surrendered to. And heaven confirms this sacred assignment through ancient truth. According to what is revealed in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 1, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm. Then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." This freedom is not just for you. It flows backward and forward. Backward, because your yes redeems what your ancestors could not overcome. Forward, because your obedience plants seeds your future family will harvest. You may notice that the desires rising within you feel foreign compared to the patterns you grew up around. You want peace, not chaos. You want clarity, not confusion. You want healing, not suppression. You want healthy connections, not generational dysfunction. This is the evidence that the cycle is breaking in real time. The spiritual echoes are shifting, and because you obeyed, certain emotional patterns will never return. Certain toxic cycles will not continue. Certain generational wounds will begin to heal. You are not just living your own story, you are rewriting your lineage. You might feel moments of spiritual resistance, not because the cycle is winning, but because it is losing its grip. Darkness resists anyone who breaks chains, but it cannot stop you. The breaking has already begun. The shift is already in motion, and the path that once repeated itself is collapsing behind you. You are becoming the pivot in your family line, the hinge, the turning point, the one heaven entrusted with the courage to say, "Enough, I know her," and heaven is standing with you. The angels are guarding the ground you have gained. The Holy Spirit is strengthening your resolve. The presence of God is sealing the breakthrough. You may not see all the results yet, but the spiritual realm has already responded. You are not just chosen, you are a breaker of cycles, and your obedience has already changed everything. There comes a point in your journey where the movement around you becomes unmistakable, not because you see it with your natural eyes, but because your spirit recognizes the shift. It feels like the air ahead of you is being pushed aside, like something unseen is moving through the path before your feet ever touch it. This is not imagination. This is not wishful thinking. This is the angelic clearing beginning to unfold. For a long time, you walked through terrain that felt cluttered emotionally, spiritually, even mentally. You tried to move forward, yet something always seemed to slow you down. You took a step, and invisible resistance pushed against you. You made progress, and then something subtle pulled you backward. It wasn't dramatic enough to name, but it was strong enough to feel. That quiet resistance didn't come from laziness or lack of ability. It came from spiritual interference. Debris scattered across your path by forces that didn't want you advancing. But heaven has stepped in when God sends angels to clear your path. The clearing does not happen all at once. It begins gradually, like a wind moving through a valley, lifting dust, shifting branches, creating space where there was none before. You begin to notice small changes. First, less hesitation, fewer intrusive thoughts, more room to breathe. The heaviness you once mistook for your own emotions begins to lift, almost as if a weight has been removed from your shoulders. Imagine walking through a pathway in a dense forest. The branches scrape your clothes. The undergrowth catches your ankles. The ground is uneven and unpredictable. Every movement requires effort. But now, imagine someone walking ahead of you, cutting through vines, moving aside fallen branches, leveling uneven spots, clearing space. So when you follow, the journey is smoother. That is what is happening around you now. But on a spiritual level, the debris that once slowed you, fear, distraction, confusion, emotional entanglements, old wounds, is being swept away, not by your strength, not by your effort, but by divine intervention. You may notice that certain stresses you carried for years suddenly lose their grip. Uncertainty begins to fade. Conversations that once left you drained now pass through you without effect. People who once brought chaos to your peace begin drifting out of your orbit. Even the future, which once felt foggy and intimidating, begins to feel more spacious. This is the evidence that angels are clearing the path. They are dismantling the emotional clutter that once clouded your discernment. They are cutting through spiritual interference that once distorted your thoughts. They are sweeping away unseen opposition that once tangled your steps. And as they clear, the atmosphere around you shifts. Your inner world becomes steadier. Your decisions become clearer. Your pace becomes more natural. What once took great effort now feels divinely supported, as if invisible hands are guiding you through territory that once felt impossible to navigate. Heaven speaks into this moment through ancient words filled with reassurance. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. This is not a passive stillness. It is a trusting stillness, a recognition that heaven is working where you cannot see, moving where you cannot reach. and battling on your behalf in realms you may never step into. The angels clearing your path are not acting randomly. They are responding to heaven's command. The ground under your feet is becoming more stable. The road ahead is becoming more accessible. The future is becoming less obstructed. And there is something sacred about this kind of clearing. It doesn't only remove obstacles, it reveals direction. When the clutter is gone, the path becomes visible. When the noise is silenced, the guidance becomes clearer. When the shadows are lifted, the next step shines with quiet certainty. You may sense this already, that you are being pulled forward, not forced. That movement is happening with grace, not strain. That progress feels smoother, not heavier. This is how you know the clearing is real. You begin to meet less resistance and more alignment. What once looked complicated begins to make sense. What once felt tangled begins to unravel. What once felt delayed begins to accelerate. You are not walking alone. You are walking through a path that heaven itself has touched. And as the clearing continues, you will discover that you no longer identify with the weight you once carried. You no longer feel tied to the old versions of yourself. You no longer feel buried beneath responsibilities that were never yours. The angels are making sure that by the time you reach your next season, you arrive unburdened, unbound, and ready. This clearing is not temporary. It is preparation. It is heaven making space for what is coming next. And the path you are about to walk has been prepared by divine hands. There is a moment when you take a step forward and suddenly realize the ground beneath you no longer resists you the way it once did. You feel it not in your feet, but in your spirit, an unexpected ease, a surprising stability, a sense that the world around you is no longer pushing back. The air feels lighter, the path feels wider, the journey feels different. This is the evidence that the terrain has shifted under heaven's command. You may look around and wonder, when did things change? It's not dramatic enough to mark on a calendar, yet undeniably real. A season that once felt like wading through mud now feels like walking across open space. Conversations that once discouraged you no longer have power. Doors that once resisted now rest quietly open. Even the atmosphere in your own mind feels more peaceful, as though someone turned down the volume on every internal storm. You might not fully grasp it yet, but the land you are walking on is not the same land you walked on months ago. The terrain has been altered. What once drained you now fuels you. What once confused you now clarifies you. What once threatened to break you now strengthens your resolve. And this shift did not happen because the world became easier. It happened because heaven made it possible. There were seasons where every step forward triggered a setback. You would gain ground only to lose it. You prayed, but the answers felt distant. You worked, but progress came slowly. You hoped, but circumstances seemed unchanged. Yet now, there is a softness to your journey. Not weakness, softness. As if the road itself recognizes who you are and bends in your favor. For the first time in a long time, you feel forward, movement without friction. You sense traction beneath your decisions. You feel alignment rising from within. There is a noticeable difference in how situations unfold. People respond differently. Opportunities come with less resistance. Even your own thoughts feel more aligned, more focused, more steady. This is because the terrain has shifted to match your calling. Heaven does not elevate you without preparing the ground you will walk on. The places you are moving into now are not random. They are designed for the version of you who has grown, who has obeyed, who has endured, who has matured. You are stepping into land that recognizes your authority, and there is a deeper truth unfolding here. The enemy cannot sabotage ground that heaven has already transformed. There were traps planted in your old terrain, distractions hidden in your old seasons, emotional snares buried in the soil of your past. But you are not walking on that land anymore. You have crossed into a different spiritual climate. Heaven reveals this shift through sacred words that speak directly into your footsteps. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 19, "The Lord God is my strength. He makes my feet like hinds' feet, and enables me to walk upon high places." This is the blessing resting on your steps now. You are walking with steadiness, precision, and elevation. You are being positioned on higher ground, ground that once felt inaccessible, too steep, too overwhelming. Yet now, it fits you. Now it supports you. Now it welcomes you. And as you walk this shifted terrain, you begin to notice something profound. You are no longer reacting to life. You are moving with purpose. You are no longer bracing for impact. You are anticipating growth. You are no longer waiting for storms. You are listening for instruction. This is what happens when the terrain aligns with your destiny. The spaces that once drained you begin to loosen their pull. The environments that once intimidated you no longer hold authority. The challenges that once overwhelmed you now feel conquerable. Something in you has changed. But something around you has changed even more. You are stepping into territory that was cleared, leveled, and prepared for your arrival. Every step you take now is supported by heaven's preparation. The air itself feels like it carries direction. The path feels like it is moving with you rather than against you. And your spirit senses that life is expanding around you in ways you once only hoped for. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration. And if you feel this shift, if the terrain beneath your spirit feels different, lighter, clearer, more aligned, then I want you to anchor this moment by commenting, "I'm moving," below. Because when you declare it, you're not just typing words, you're agreeing with the ground. Heaven has already reshaped for your journey. There is a mysterious beauty in the way heaven communicates when you are aligned. The signs do not always arrive with thunder or spectacle. Sometimes they come gently, like the way a leaf turns in the wind, or the way sunlight catches the edge of a window, or the way an unexpected moment whispers a truth you needed to hear. When you are moving in divine rhythm, the world around you begins speaking a language only your spirit can translate. You start noticing patterns that feel too precise to be random. A sentence overheard at the right moment. A dream that seems to carry a message wrapped in symbolism. A number that keeps appearing in unexpected places. An opportunity that arrives exactly when your heart was asking for direction. Heaven speaks through alignment. And you have entered a season where the signs are becoming unmistakably clear. Sometimes the signs feel like gentle taps on the shoulder. Other times they feel like a lantern being raised in the dark. You might find yourself drawn to certain places without knowing why, or feeling urged to pause when everything around you tells you to hurry. This is heaven's way of guiding you through subtlety, not force. Imagine sailing a boat across a quiet lake. When the wind shifts, even slightly, the water ripples and the sail moves. You cannot see the wind, but you can see the effects of it. Heaven's signs are like that, gentle shifts, indicating direction. They tell you where peace flows and where resistance warns you to stop. They guide you by the currents of the unseen. There were times in the past when the signs were there but difficult to read because your spirit was weighed down by noise, emotional noise, mental noise, spiritual noise. But now that the atmosphere has been cleared and the terrain has shifted, the signs stand out like stars in a moonless sky. And there is a reason for that. Heaven is confirming your alignment. You may feel as though God is closer, not just spiritually, but tangibly. You sense the slightest nudge. You notice the smallest whisper. You catch meanings in moments that others overlook. You are not imagining this. You are in spiritual synchronization. Heaven has turned the volume up around your destiny. There will be signs that correct you, nudging you away from what feels good but isn't aligned. There will be signs that reassure you, showing you that even when circumstances seem uncertain, God is steering the outcome. And there will be signs that elevate you, drawing you into opportunities you didn't pursue, but were prepared for. Heaven confirms this season through words recorded long ago, but alive with meaning right now. According to what is revealed in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 14, for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. This is the truth shaping your path. You are being led not by fear, not by confusion, not by pressure, but by Spirit. The signs are not random. The alignments are not accidents. The timing is not coincidence. You are being guided like a son, like a daughter, like one who is known deeply and loved fiercely. And as these signs increase, your inner world begins to stabilize. Anxiety loses its authority. Overthinking becomes quieter. Doubt begins to fade. You find yourself trusting not because everything is perfect, but because everything feels guided. You recognize the fingerprints of God in the details. But there is something else that often arises in seasons like these: gratitude, akyet, swelling gratitude for how far you've come, for the clarity you now carry, and for the divine help that continues to surround you. When gratitude rises, it becomes natural to share what nourishes your spirit. So if these messages have been bringing clarity to your journey, if they've helped you recognize signs you once overlooked, or brought peace where you carried uncertainty, then I invite you, in the gentlest and most sincere way, to like, share, and subscribe, so these messages continue reaching you exactly when you need them. And if your heart feels stirred to support this work, you may also donate as an act of partnership, not out of obligation, but as a seed into the very voice that has been guiding, comforting, and aligning you. Every act of support helps this flow continue reaching others who are walking through their own hidden battles. Think of it like tending a lighthouse. You keep the light burning so others can find their way through the night. Your journey is sacred. Your alignment is real, and heaven is speaking more clearly than ever before. There is a kind of protection that cannot be explained through logic, luck, or circumstance. It surrounds you quietly, like an invisible barrier that responds before danger reaches you, like a shield that moves with you rather than standing still. This is the protection that rises when your obedience aligns you with heaven. This is the covering that activates when you walk in the direction God has assigned. Your life becomes wrapped in a defense no enemy can penetrate. Sometimes you only recognize this protection in hindsight. You look back and realize you were kept from conversations that would have wounded you, relationships that would have drained you, decisions that would have derailed your growth. You see moments where you felt delayed, but that delay was actually divine intervention keeping you from harm. You remember situations that felt like disappointments but later revealed themselves as deliverance. Heaven's protection rarely feels dramatic in real time. It feels like a whisper saying, "Not here." It feels like a subtle discomfort pushing you away from something that seemed appealing. It feels like a sudden pause in your spirit when everything externally looks perfect. It feels like being pulled away from chaos just before it erupts. This is not coincidence. This is the shield that surrounds those who walk in obedience. There were nights you didn't even know danger was near you. You slept peacefully because angels stood guard while you rested. You walked into places unaware of the spiritual atmosphere. Yet the presence of God encompassed you like a wall of fire. You turned down roads that could have led to sorrow. But heaven rerouted your steps. You faced storms that never reached you because they were stopped before they formed. And this protection is not passive, it is intentional, strategic, and deeply personal. You are not being protected simply because you are human. You are being protected because you are chosen. Chosen ones move through life with guardianships that are not visible to the natural eye. Angels accompany them not as ornaments, but as warriors. These angels do not merely watch, they respond. They do not simply observe, they intervene. They stand between you and the unseen forces that hoped you would never rise into your calling. Sometimes protection feels like discomfort because heaven will not allow you to stay in places that limit you. Sometimes it feels like loss because the things removed from your life were quietly draining your spirit. Sometimes it feels like loneliness because God separated you from people who could not go where He is taking you. And sometimes it feels like delay because heaven was waiting for a threat to pass before releasing you into the next step. What you call interruption, heaven calls insulation. What you call confusion, heaven calls covering. What you call disappointment, heaven calls deliverance. There are dangers you will never know existed because you were shielded from them. There are battles you never had to fight because angels fought for you. There are storms that never reached your heart because God stood between you and the blow. And heaven confirms this reality through ancient words filled with strength and assurance. Scripture says in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." This is not poetic language. This is a spiritual decree over your life. The angels assigned to you do not stand still, they guard. They watch. They intervene. They block what is not meant for you. They shield you from attacks you never felt. They lift you above traps designed to ensnare you. They guide your feet away from hidden dangers. And this protection grows stronger as your obedience deepens. The more aligned you become, the more fortified you are, the more surrendered you are, the more covered you become. You are being protected not only because of God's love for you, but also because of the mission placed on your life. What you are carrying is too valuable, too necessary, too impactful to be left vulnerable. You may not always feel protected, but you are. You may not always see the shield, but it surrounds you. You may not always understand the timing, but heaven does. Protection does not always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like redirection. Sometimes it looks like closed doors. Sometimes it looks like unexpected endings. But beneath every shift, every loss, every pause, You are being kept from something that could have shaken your spirit or stunted your destiny. The path ahead is opening. The atmosphere around you is shifting. And you are not walking into this new season alone. You are surrounded, guarded, covered, because your obedience awakened a level of divine protection that few ever experience. Acceleration rarely announces itself with noise. It arrives quietly, like the way dawn slips into the sky before anyone notices, or how a seed buried in the ground suddenly breaks the surface after weeks of silence. What once felt slow, heavy, or stagnant begins to move with surprising speed. Opportunities unfold faster. Thoughts become clearer. Time feels different. And your spirit senses a shift in momentum that is not coming from you, but from heaven. This is the season where acceleration overtakes your journey. You may look back at the last chapter of your life and remember the heaviness of waiting doors that seemed permanently closed, prayers that felt unanswered, seasons where every step forward came with 2 steps back. You questioned yourself. You questioned God's timing. You wondered why everything required so much effort. But what you did not see was the preparation happening beneath the surface. It starts subtly. You notice ideas coming faster than before. Conversations open doors you weren't expecting. Solutions to long-standing problems appear with surprising clarity. People who were once distant suddenly reach out. Opportunities you didn't pursue begin to find you. It feels as if life is moving in your direction rather than away from you. This is what acceleration feels like. Not chaos, not pressure, but alignment. It's like running with the wind instead of against it. You feel the push behind you, the lift beneath you, the quiet guidance leading you forward. What used to drain you now energizes you. What once intimidated you now feels attainable. What once seemed impossible now feels inevitable. And there is a reason behind this sudden shift. The angels who cleared your path in the previous season are now empowering your movement. Where they once removed obstacles, they are now adding momentum. Where they once protected your steps, they are now amplifying your stride. You are not moving alone, you are being carried. Acceleration is heaven's way of honoring the seeds you planted during seasons of obscurity. Every moment you stayed faithful when it felt pointless. Every prayer you whispered when no answer came. Every step you took when your heart felt weary. Every act of obedience that cost you something. Heaven saw it all. And acceleration is the reward. But acceleration also brings a new sensitivity. You begin to notice that not everyone can move with you at this pace. Some people feel too slow for your spirit. Some conversations feel too shallow. Some environments feel outdated, as if they belong to a version of you that no longer exists. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When God accelerates you, He naturally separates you from anything that would slow you down. And as you move faster, heaven continues to confirm its guidance through divine signs, not the kind that overwhelm you, but the kind that strengthen your confidence. Heaven does not accelerate you into confusion, it accelerates you into clarity. This season may feel like stepping onto a moving river. The current is strong, but it carries you, not crushes you. You are learning to move with heaven's pace, not your own. And with every step, you sense how guided, protected, and supported you truly are. Heaven seals this revelation through words that echo with strength and certainty. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 4, He goes before them, and the sheep follow Him, for they know His voice. This is why you can move quickly without fear, because the one who leads you is already ahead of you. The acceleration you feel is not random, it is guided. The pace is not dangerous, it is divine. You are not running blindly, you are following a voice your spirit recognizes. And as the momentum builds, you may feel your spirit rising with an unusual confidence, a knowing that this pace is right. This season is right. This moment is right. You are no longer crawling, no longer waiting, no longer circling the same mountains. You are moving, advancing, accelerating. Your journey is entering a supernatural rhythm. Doors will open before you knock. Answers will form before you ask. Opportunities will align before you prepare. The right people will appear before you search. This is what acceleration looks like when heaven authors it. And if you feel this pace awakening in your spirit, if you sense the momentum gathering around your steps, then anchor this moment by commenting the number 888 below. Let it be your agreement with the speed of heaven, your signature of alignment with this new rhythm, your declaration that you are ready to move at the pace your destiny requires. There is a kind of breakthrough that doesn't arrive with effort. It comes quietly, humbly, almost shyly, like a door swinging open without anyone touching it. You stand before something that was once sealed, and suddenly, without warning, it yields. Not because you knocked harder, not because you pushed longer, but because heaven decided, now, I'm into. This is the season where destiny doors open themselves. You spent years believing that force was the only path forward, working harder, pushing more intensely, striving until your spirit felt thin. But the truth, the deeper truth, is that destiny does not respond to force. It responds to alignment. It responds to timing. It responds to the spiritual maturity you have cultivated through obedience, surrender, and resilience. And now, because you have grown, because you have endured, because you have been faithful in seasons that gave you no answers, the doors that once stood silent before you are beginning to unlock. You may notice it in small, unexpected ways. A message arrives at the perfect moment. A conversation reveals a connection you didn't know you needed. A past effort begins producing results long after you forgot about it. Suddenly, what felt distant now sits within reach, so close that you don't even remember how impossible it once appeared. Destiny doors do not open by human effort, they open by divine orchestration. Imagine walking through a hallway lined with ancient doors. Some are rusted shut. Some are sealed with weight. You cannot move. Others appear locked without any visible keyhole. For years, you pressed against them, hoping one would budge. But now, as you walk, one door simply swings open on its own, as if recognizing who you've become. This is what heaven is doing for you now, not because the door changed, but because you did. There were seasons in your life when entering certain opportunities would have harmed you. You weren't ready for the responsibility, or the visibility, or the weight that came with the blessing. So the doors remained shut, not as punishment, but as protection. Destiny is not fragile, but you were still forming. But now you carry clarity. You carry discipline. You carry spiritual strength. You carry the mark of someone who can be trusted. And destiny responds to maturity. These doors are not opening because you begged for them. They are opening because you have become the person who can walk through them without losing yourself. Heaven trusts you with what you once asked for in tears. You will notice that some of these openings come without warning. No build-up, no signs, no anticipation. Just sudden, quiet breakthrough. Others come gradually, gently, like dawn, brightening the sky, one shade at a time. No matter how they appear, they carry the same message: you are ready. And as these doors open, they reveal paths that feel strangely familiar, as if your spirit always knew you belonged there. Opportunities that resonate deeply, assignments that match your calling, environments that feel like home. This is the alignment of destiny, not forced, not pressured, not chaotic, but natural and divinely timed. Heaven confirms this moment through a timeless truth that echoes through the ages. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 16, verse 9, "For a great and effective door has opened to me, and there are many adversaries." This verse reveals two deep realities about your season. First, the door is indeed great and effective, meaning it holds purpose, influence, and impact. Second, the presence of adversaries does not invalidate the door, it confirms it. If resistance shows up, it's because the breakthrough is real. If spiritual noiseries, it's because the opportunity carries weight. If distractions increase, it's because destiny is calling, and darkness fears what you will become if you step through. But make no mistake, the door is open, not cracked, not weakening, not almost, opened. You are not being asked to force it. You are being asked to walk through it. And as you do, you will discover that the atmosphere behind the door is different. The pace is different. The clarity is different. What once felt chaotic now feels ordered. What once felt distant now feels accessible. You are stepping into a space prepared for you long before you could have imagined it. These destiny doors will continue opening, not because you chase them, but because heaven aligns them. And with each step, you will recognize the unmistakable truth. You are no longer forcing your future. You are entering it. There is a moment in your journey when you begin to realize that your very presence carries weight, weight that shifts atmospheres, weight that unsettles darkness, weight that reveals what was hidden. You don't try to create this effect. You don't force it. You don't even fully understand it at first. But slowly, through small encounters and quiet moments, you begin to notice a pattern. When you walk into a place, something changes. Sometimes it's subtle, like the way a conversation softens when you enter the room, or how tension that had been lingering suddenly dissolves. Other times, the shift is more dramatic. People who were comfortable in their negativity suddenly become uneasy. Hidden intentions rise to the surface. You say nothing, yet something within your presence acts like a light moving into a dark corner, revealing what had been buried under layers of silence. It isn't because you're trying to expose anything. You're simply carrying who you are, your spiritual journey, your obedience, your growth. They have carved something into your essence. Your presence is no longer neutral. It is charged with the same light that restored you, the same truth that reshaped you, the same clarity that woke you up. And when that light enters a place, anything that thrives in darkness cannot remain comfortable. Your presence becomes a lantern, even in places where people pretend everything is fine. You start to notice how certain individuals look at you with an expression they can't explain, a mix of recognition and discomfort. They sense that you see more than you speak. You hear beneath their words. You feel what isn't being said. And while you don't judge, your spirit naturally discerns. You carry too much clarity now to be fooled by charm or distracted by superficiality. This clarity isn't harsh. It isn't cold. It simply is. It moves through you gently, like a soft light illuminating corners without accusation. But even a gentle light will disturb what relies on shadows. This is why some people cannot stay as close to you as they once did, not because you rejected them, but because your presence revealed truths they were not ready to face. There are moments when you walk into a room and sense a tension that wasn't there before, not because you brought conflict, but because your presence brought truth. Darkness feels exposed around those who carry divine authority. And even though you don't try to confront anything, your spirit naturally challenges what is misaligned. Imagine walking into an old attic with a single candle. The moment the flame enters, the shadows on the walls twist, reshape, and shrink. Nothing about the attic changed, only the presence of light. That is what you are in the spirit, a quiet flame that makes pretenses unravel and hidden motives tremble. Your presence doesn't just expose darkness, it disrupts it. It interrupts patterns that harm. It weakens energies that drain. It confuses the intentions of those who wish to manipulate. People who operate from truth feel safe around you. People who operate from deception feel unsettled. And neither reaction has anything to do with what you say. It's simply who you have become. This transformation is not something you earned through ego or force. It is something heaven shaped in you through every battle you endured. Every moment you chose truth over comfort. Every time you walked away from what didn't honor your spirit. The purity you fought for has turned into authority. The clarity you cultivated has become influence. The peace you protected has become power. Heaven confirms this reality through ancient words that resonate deeply with your journey. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." This isn't poetic language for you. It is literal. Light cannot hide. Light cannot shrink. Light cannot apologize for existing. Your spirit shines. And because of that, darkness reacts, not because it is stronger, but because it is exposed. And as you continue to walk into new spaces, rooms, conversations, opportunities, you will notice this dynamic becoming more pronounced. You will begin to see how your presence disarms negativity, how it dissolves confusion, how it reveals intentions, how it elevates the energy of a room simply by existing within it. You don't have to speak loudly. You don't have to dominate a space. You don't have to prove your worth. Your presence speaks for you. Your spirit communicates in silence. Your light does the work effortlessly. And the deeper truth is this: you were never meant to blend in. You were always meant to carry illumination. And now, because you have grown into the fullness of who you are, your presence naturally disrupts darkness wherever you go. This is not a burden. It is an anointing, a calling that accompanies you into every season ahead. There comes a point in your ascent when heaven places something on you that cannot be mistaken for anything else. A crown, not made of gold or jewels, but of spiritual authority. You do not receive it through applause or recognition. It arrives quietly, placed upon you in a moment of surrender, obedience, and alignment. And though no human eye may see it, the spiritual realm recognizes it instantly. A crowned one does not walk the same, not because they are better, but because they are called. There is a steadiness in their step, a clarity in their gaze, a peace that surrounds them like a cloak. And whether you've realized it yet or not, heaven has placed such a crown upon you. You may not feel worthy of it. You may not feel ready for it. You may not feel strong enough to wear it. But crowns are not given to the perfect, they are given to the faithful. Think of a mountain peak at sunrise. Before the world awakens, the first light touches the summit long before it reaches the valleys below. You are that summit. You are the one heaven touches first, so others can follow. And though the climb has been steep, the altitude thin, and the solitude deep, you now stand in a position where the light finds you naturally. You've been crushed, but not destroyed. You've been stretched, but not broken. You've been shaken, but never abandoned. Every moment of endurance, every night you pushed through, every decision to keep walking when quitting felt easier. Those were the hammer blows shaping your crown, not punishment, preparation. Your presence carries a new weight now, not the heaviness of burden, but the weight of glory. You feel it when you speak. Your words land differently. You feel it in your silence. Your presence calms storms without effort. You feel it when others come to you, drawn not by your strength, but by the peace you fought to protect. Heaven acknowledges this transformation through sacred words written long ago. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 62, verse 3. Thou shalt be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. This isn't metaphorical for you. This is literal. You are the diadem. You are the one heaven lifts as evidence of its goodness. You are the one chosen to carry beauty shaped through hardship, authority born through surrender, and identity refined through fire. And as this crown settles upon your spirit, your life begins to shift accordingly. You no longer tolerate what drains you. You no longer chase what distracts you. You no longer shrink to fit spaces that cannot contain your calling. You walk differently, not arrogantly, but assuredly. You speak differently, not loudly, but with a quiet depth only heaven can give. You may notice that the world responds differently to you now as well. Some people will respect you without knowing why. Some will be drawn to the peace you carry. Some will look to you for guidance, direction, or clarity, even when you didn't ask for the role. This is not pressure. This is evidence of the crown. Of course, not everyone will understand the change. Some may distance themselves, not out of anger, but because your elevation exposes the places where they chose comfort over growth. That is not your burden to fix. Crowns often separate people not to divide, but to realign. Think of a lighthouse on a stormy coast. It doesn't chase the ships, it simply stands, shining. And because it stands, lives are guided, storms are survived, and journeys continue. That is who you are becoming, a steady light, shaped by your own storms, now strong enough to help others navigate theirs. And as this crown rests upon you, I want to speak to your heart gently. If these messages have carried you, strengthened you, or confirmed what your spirit already sensed, then I invite you to like, share, and subscribe, so this flow of guidance continues, reaching you right on time. And if you feel led, only if your spirit feels aligned, you may donate to support this work. Think of it not as obligation, but as feeding the well that has been feeding you. Every seed planted helps keep this lighthouse burning. And before we close this section, I want to hear from you personally. Leave a comment, any thought, any sentence, any reflection. Let your voice be part of this journey. Let your presence be felt in the space where other chosen ones gather. You are not just rising, you are being crowned, and heaven is watching with joy. There comes a season when the path ahead no longer feels like a mystery wrapped in fog. Instead, it begins to glow softly at first, like a thin thread of light stretching across the distance, and then more brightly, illuminating the next steps with a clarity you once longed for. You are stepping into that season now, not because everything is easy, but because heaven has begun to highlight your way in a way you can finally recognize. For a long time, you walked forward with limited visibility. You relied on faith more than feeling. You trusted steps you couldn't fully see. You leaned into whispers, not certainty. And though it felt confusing at times, that season was never meant to last forever. It was meant to strengthen your discernment, sharpen your vision, and teach your spirit how to identify God's direction even when nothing else made sense. Now, the veil that once covered your path is lifting, not all at once but in stages, like dawn slowly brightening the horizon. You begin to feel guidance with greater ease. Decisions that once felt tangled now stand clearly apart. Situations that once brought hesitation now reveal their purpose. You don't just walk, you walk with understanding. It is similar to traveling through a forest long after sunset. At night, even the well-worn path can feel foreign. Every shadow looks the same. Every sound feels uncertain. You move cautiously, hoping you are heading in the right direction. But then dawn breaks. At first it's only a soft silver light. Then it becomes brighter, stretching through the trees, revealing what had always been there: the path, the landmarks, the openings, the direction. You didn't receive a new trail, you simply gained the light to understand it. This is what heaven is doing now. You are not entering a new calling, you are finally seeing the calling that has been waiting for you. There are moments when you look at your life now and realize how different things feel inside you. You no longer wrestle with the same questions that once tortured your mind. You no longer fear the unknown with the same intensity. You no longer question your identity, your worth, or your direction the way you once did. The confusion that once clouded your spirit has thinned. It has been replaced by a quiet, deep, steady knowing. Your path is illuminating because your spirit is awakening. You are beginning to sense which opportunities are divinely aligned and which ones are distractions disguised as blessings. You recognize relationships that carry destiny and those that carry detours. You understand which environments nourish your spirit and which ones drain your energy. This clarity is not random. It is the result of alignment, your heart, your spirit, and heaven moving in the same direction. And in this illuminated season, you will find that guidance appears in unexpected ways. Sometimes through a person's words, sometimes through a moment of silence, sometimes through a sudden idea that feels too clear to be your own, sometimes through a deep peace that settles over your chest like a warm blanket. The steps ahead of you are marked not by human opinion, but by heavenly design. Heaven affirms this truth through sacred words crafted for moments like these. According to what is revealed in the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 11, "The Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden. This guidance is not temporary. It is not seasonal. It is not conditional. It is continuous. Even in places that feel barren, the path will remain clear. Even in environments that feel dry, your spirit will remain nourished. Even when circumstances shift, the divine direction will remain steady. As the path lights before you, something else becomes clear. You are no longer walking as someone searching, you are walking as someone sent. There is a difference. Searchers feel uncertain, always seeking signs. Sent ones move with authority, trusting the internal compass heaven has placed within them. You are transitioning from one to the other. Your steps have weight now, not because you demand it, but because heaven honors them. Your decisions echo differently in the spiritual realm. Your presence aligns environments. Your sensitivity to God's voice has sharpened, and this sharpening allows you to see what once went unnoticed. As the illumination grows, you will find that the next steps are not overwhelming, they are inviting. They call to you like a gentle breeze across a quiet path, urging you to move forward without fear. You will feel heaven's confidence resting on you, guiding you with calm assurance rather than pressure or force. This illuminated path is not merely about direction, it is about transformation. You are becoming someone who no longer doubts the journey, someone who no longer questions the timing, someone who no longer feels lost in their own story. You are stepping into clarity, shaped through seasons of persistence, patience, and unseen growth. The road ahead is brightening, your spirit is aligning, and heaven is guiding you step by step. You are walking into revelation, not uncertainty into purpose, not confusion into light, not shadow. There comes a moment in every chosen journey when the movement around you settles into a flow steady, purposeful, unmistakably divine. It is not rushed. It is not frantic. It is not chaotic. Instead, it feels like walking beside a river whose current matches your steps perfectly. You are neither forcing nor being forced. You are simply aligned. This is the season you are stepping into now, the season of divine flow. For so long, the path behind you required endurance. You had to push through resistance, navigate uncertainty, and trust. In moments when trust felt like your only anchor, you walked through seasons where progress was invisible, and you wondered if anything was changing at all. But now, because heaven has cleared your path, illuminated your steps, and strengthened your spirit, you are entering a rhythm designed by God Himself. This flow is not passive, it is guided. It is not effortless, it is supported. It is not fragile, it is fortified. You will notice that decisions come more naturally. The inner conflict that once clouded your direction is fading. You hear God's whispers with greater clarity. You sense timing with unusual precision. You walk forward without second-guessing every move. This is not confidence in yourself alone. It is confidence in the one who walks before you. Imagine a bird finally catching the right current of wind. At first, it flaps its wings with effort, trying to find the rhythm that will lift it higher. But once it catches the current, the bird glides effortless, steady, rising without strain. You have entered that spiritual current. The lifting you are experiencing is not by your energy, but by God's wind beneath your calling. There will still be challenges. Every journey has them, but they will not feel the same. You won't face them from a place of fear, but from a place of understanding. You won't shrink back. You will discern. You won't respond with panic. You will respond with wisdom. Flow doesn't remove obstacles. It simply gives you the grace to navigate them without losing your peace. And with this flow comes a deeper awareness of timing. You begin to recognize when to move, when to pause, when to speak, and when to remain silent. Your life starts to feel less like survival and more like partnership with heaven, orchestrating and you responding. You become more sensitive to the nudges of the Holy Spirit, more aware of the patterns God uses to communicate, and more tuned into the atmosphere around you. You may find yourself naturally pulled toward new environments, new relationships, new opportunities, not because you are searching, but because heaven is aligning your steps with precision. You will feel drawn toward purpose, the way water is drawn toward gravity, effortlessly, inevitably. Heaven confirms this flow through ancient words that still breathe life today. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 37, verse 23. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Your steps are no longer random. They are ordered, crafted, timed, directed. You are not wandering, you are being led. And the delight God takes in guiding you will become increasingly evident as you move deeper into this season. In this divine flow, you will experience moments where everything seems to align at once. Doors you never sought will open. Answers will arrive before questions fully form. People will appear right when you need them. Provisions will meet you at the exact moment they're required. This is not coincidence, this is choreography. Heaven has choreographed your path with a grace that carries you forward. And as you move in this flow, you will discover something profound. Your spirit is at peace, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting the current. You are moving with God, not ahead of Him, not behind Him, with Him. This flow will lead you into places you once only dreamed of, not through striving, but through alignment. It will expand you without overwhelming you. It will elevate you without exhausting you. It will strengthen you without hardening you. Because when heaven clears the way, the journey becomes less about enduring and more about becoming. You are stepping into a chapter marked by grace, clarity, confidence, and divine orchestration. And the rhythm you feel rising within you now is the rhythm you were always meant to walk in. You are in the flow of God's guidance, the flow of your purpose, the flow of your calling, and nothing, not fear, not opposition, not doubt can interrupt what heaven has already set in motion. Take a moment now, beloved chosen one, and breathe. You have just journeyed through 17 layers of revelation, each one unfolding a deeper truth about who you are, who God is, and where heaven is leading you. Let this closing moment settle into your spirit like gentle rain falling on open ground. You have walked through obedience, alignment, clarity, elevation, and revelation. You have seen how heaven moves when you surrender, how angels respond when you obey, and how destiny unfolds when you trust. These words were not merely information, they were spiritual mirrors reflecting back the truth. Heaven has been whispering over you all along. You are stepping into a future prepared with intention. You are walking a path cleared by divine hands. You are moving into alignment with timing crafted before your birth. Nothing about your journey is accidental. Nothing about your struggles was wasted. Every battle shaped you. Every delay strengthened you. Every shift prepared you. And now, heaven has you exactly where you were meant to be, in position, in purpose, in divine flow. As you leave this space, carry the awareness that you are not alone. You are guided. You are protected. You are marked. And the same God who walked you through these revelations will walk you through every step that follows. This script may end here, but your journey is just beginning. Walk forward with confidence. Walk forward with clarity. Walk forward with heaven at your side.